This morning's, I guess you could say, message would be giraffe down. That's what what most of those machines are called, are giraffes. Everybody knows what that is. That's what goes around trimming the limbs back off the power lines and stuff. And this week, Cody Mason had posted this picture. They had actually had both of these machines stuck down close to the chicken plant, down close to Farmville. And I told him, I said, well, he worked with that one. He kept on working with that one until he got it down on the frame. Now, a lot of y'all in here know what I'm talking about on that. I know Daddy does. The rest of them, you keep working with it long enough and you'll get it on the frame. You'll get it about as far as you can go. And he took, and not only did they stick this machine, but they stuck the other machine trying to get it out. All right. And I promise you in here, if you've never been in this predicament, it always starts out with, I think I can make it across that. All right? I have said that many a time. I believe I can make it across that. I catch that. I think I can make it across that. Now, it's oftentimes resulted in me maybe either getting on the end of a come-along or maybe borrowing a skidder or a tractor or something to get me out after I thought I could get across it. And the reason this picture is up here is because Cody and I began to kind of talk back and forth on Facebook about this picture. And he told me, he said, there ought to be a sermon in there about that picture. About how somebody just continues to work and work and work and not stopping and asking God for help. So I told Cody, I said, Cody, it sounds like to me you've already got one figured out, planned out. And I told him, I said, I know a place where you can come deliver it. And he said, oh no, he said, God's done me a lot of things in my life, but preaching's not one of them. I said, well, just remember, you don't have to be a pastor to share. So this is Cody Mason's sermon this morning. All right? But this morning, as we begin to talk about it and look at it, and I told you, it oftentimes begins, whether we're running equipment or that old big red Jeep out there or whatever it is, it always comes about, and we always get in this predicament because we always take and think, I believe I can make it across that. Now, relate that to everyday life. Well, that don't look so bad. I think I can make it through that. I can handle that. God's busy. I can handle that. And how many times does that work out for us? We'll work and work and work and work and work and work and work. And there's a fellow back there that'll tell you that if I could work a piece of equipment down to the ground and wave at the Chinese on the other side, it was me. All right? I just keep working and keep working. Because we always think if you work it just a little bit more, you can get out. And you end up getting in a really, really, really bad mess. Even Miss Paula knows what a come-along is, all right? Even she knows what a come-along is. But I want you to look at some different things this morning. And one verse that I want you to take and to keep in your head and keep in the back of your mind. And it's a verse, it's been probably, we've said it here over and over and over and over again, but I just want to keep it in the back of your mind that whenever you get in the middle of this and panic sets in or whatever, anxiety sets in or whatever it is, and you finally begin to realize that I am in a mess and I've got to have some help. One of the biggest deals is firefighters or medics or whatever it is, when you arrive on scene and there's chaos and there's people, Paula don't understand it, but I can go into a scene where people are screaming and hollering and jerking and snatching and pulling on me and screaming bloody murder. You take and you go in and you must have calm. Maybe not on the scene, but within yourself. And once you begin to go in and to calm everyone down, and where you can find out what's going on, this verse to me always relates. And it's Psalms chapter 46, verse 10. It says, "Be still and know that I am God." Whenever you show up on scene, be still and know that I am here to help you. Be still and know that I am God. And I will be exalted among the heathen, and I will be exalted in the earth. God is with us, and the God of Jacob is our refuge. We would tend to, Paul and I watch a show every night. When it runs out, we're going to be upset. We always are. But we watch a little show called Night Watch. And it's out of New Orleans. And we live real close to there. And we like seeing all the streets that we know. And we like seeing all of these different things. It's relatable to us. And it follows the fire department. It follows the EMS, the paramedics, and also the police department. All right? It's the same people every week. And we begin to you get to know them, all right? You get to know them. You get to know their personalities. So all of these different traumas and all of these different things that go on, God is there to help us. But a lot of times, if we were to take it a look, we kind of relate to this fellow, this operator here on this machine. Now, he had a job to do. And this obstacle was standing in his way. But in his mind, I promise you, he didn't think it was that bad until he got out in the middle of it. And once he got out into the middle of it, he did everything that he knew to do with his own power. Now, I'm giving this operator a lot of credit because I don't know him, all right? He may have been green right off the gourd. I don't know. We're going to give him the benefit of the doubt. He did everything he could do on his own, and look where it got him. Probably not a raise and a bonus. Probably not. I want to flip over to a few pages to Psalm chapter 50. Psalm chapter 50 and verse 15. "And call upon me in the day of trouble, I will deliver thee, and thou shalt glorify me." God is simply saying, you can call on me. Remember last week we was talking a little bit about that and how we said that we would take and if we would tell Miss Clarnell, look, if you need anything in the world, you can call us. Need anything at all. Remember we said that? And it's great to be able to have a group of people assembled around us as a support group. But ultimately, you and I need to go to God. That's it. That is the Most High. That is the top number. That is the direct hotline in these times. And you say, well, why do you kind of keep going over this? Look, we all keep looking around and we keep telling each other amongst ourselves, the world right now is kind of crazy. The world is uncertain right now. Now, I'm not Chicken Little running around saying that the world is ending and all that. I'm just telling you, look, go about your business. Go about your marriage. Go about your work. Go about your grocery shopping. Go to Walmart. Check yourself out. Whatever you got to do. Just remember, you've got somebody that you can talk to. A direct hotline. That you and I, we don't have to be scared to go out into the world. We don't have to be scared to go to the doctor. We don't have to be scared to go to work. Whatever it is, because you and I have someone that is bigger than everything that has been mentioned in here that's going on in the world or everything that you've heard on the news this week. Absolutely. The biggest thing is, do you believe that?
Yeah.
We all nod our head because that's the Sunday school answer that we've been programmed in to say. But do you actually believe that? You see, there's a difference between knowing it here and absolutely knowing it here. We all say that because that's what we're supposed to say, right? It's what we've all been said to say. I'm going to check this because I can't read my writing. want to look over in Psalm 'Well, I don't know what I wrote there because that's not the right verse. But it says that we can call upon him. Look at Isaiah chapter 41. Isaiah chapter 41. Verse 13. One of the biggest deals, and I know that I continue to relate stuff is back to fire, is because I was one for a really long time. So y'all excuse me for the examples and leading into that. But I know a lot of you have seen firemen as they go into the schools, and they'll have someone and they'll dress out in full turnout gear. Now they've taken, girls, I don't know if y'all have ever seen this, the firemen, how they put on the helmet, they've got on a big face mask and a great big coat and gloves and boots and all, and they're walking around and they sound like Darth Vader. Do y'all know who Darth Vader is? Bless your hearts. All right. Just really, all right. Braden, it's the Star Wars, and it's the really tall guy in the black, and he'll... He'll add a lifesaver. All right. And you hear his breathing, and it's really, really loud. And the whole point of that is if a house is on fire and these kids hear this big thing coming through the house and he's breathing like Darth Vader, y'all please show them YouTube who Darth Vader is today. All right. So they can understand that. Why would it be so important to introduce a child to that firefighter that's completely covered in all of this protective gear and breathing so crazy? Why would it be so important?
They won't be afraid.
Because whenever you go into a house, it's full of fire, and that child is huddled up into the tiniest ball that they finally can. And you go through sweeping with your hand because you can't see, and you feel them. The first thing that they're going to do is run from you. They're going to run from you because all of that scares them to death. So if you can take and introduce them to that in school, into a natural and a neutral setting, they won't be near as scared of you, you hope. Isaiah chapter 41 verse 13 says, For I, the Lord thy God, will hold thy right hand, saying unto thee, Fear not, I will help thee. So the last thing that you want is for that kid to be scared of the noise and the sound and scared of you. They want you to run to you, where you can just take and hug them and hold them tight and not run from you. Because once that kid runs from you, you're in a mess. Now you've got to go find them again. How many of you in here has ever been through something or whatever it is and absolutely scared to death, and you just had someone there to hold your hand, or you held someone else's? Miss Paula at times can break a hand 3 different times through different our kids being born. She's got a pretty good grip, Jimmy. But how many of you have ever held someone's hand or had someone hold yours? Isn't it relatable? And how you think that how God is powerful and is magnificent, and over everything in the world, he stops just long enough to take and say, Fear not, I'll hold your hand. I'll hold it. I'll hold it. You see, there's something about a gentleness there, a caring and a loving touch. That's different than a hug. It's different than a handshake. It's different than any other thing. Someone just merely holding your hand. You see, there's a gentleness within the power. Fear not. In Proverbs chapter 28, verse 26. Proverbs 28 and verse 26 says, He that trusteth in his own heart is a fool, but whoso walketh wisely, he shall be delivered. I believe I can get through that. Didn't work out too good. Whosoever trusteth on his own. I can handle that. Or a lot of times it just don't turn out too good. I did everything I knew to do. I did everything I could. You ever heard those phrases come along? I did everything I knew to do. I had a guy say that the other day, and the old boy told him, he said, well, obviously you didn't know too much. He was kind of bluntly honest with him. Kind of laughed, but it was kind of hard to defend him. We didn't know. There's another thing there that in Isaiah chapter 55. Isaiah chapter 55, verse 1, it says, Everyone that thirsteth, come to the waters, and he that hath no money, come ye, buy and eat. Come, buy wine and milk without money and without price. Verse 3, Incline your ear and come unto me, hear, and your soul shall live, and I will make an everlasting covenant with you, even the sure mercies of David. You know, that's regardless of status. Financial, social, whatever it is. Said there wasn't any discrimination. There wasn't any guidelines. There wasn't any status quo as to who could come and ask for help from God. He clearly doesn't see it. Isaiah 65 and verse 24. And it shall come to pass that before they call, I will answer. And while they are yet speaking, I will hear. You ever heard the fact that God already knows our thoughts and our needs? It says, before they call, I already hear. Before they're finished asking, I'm already answering. Now, we all know that we work on God's time. Amen? And He answers and instructs us and helps us in the way that we need help. Even when I didn't know what to ask for, He knew. Before I even asked, where I got it out of my mouth, He was answering. Isn't that comforting? I don't have to wait. I don't have to wait till 8 o'clock in the morning. I don't have to do all of these different things. You mean to tell me it doesn't matter who I am or what I look like or what color I am or how much money I have in the bank or don't have in the bank, I can go to God? Yeah, that's exactly it. I don't have to belong to a certain church or a certain denomination. I don't have to do all of these different things. It doesn't matter what I did yesterday or what I did last night. It remains what it is here. In Micah chapter 7, guy that sings a song that I like awfully much from over in Texarkana, David Crowder, has a song out. It says, all of my hope is in Jesus. Over in Micah chapter 7 in verse 7, it says, therefore I will look unto the Lord, I will wait for the God of my salvation. My God will hear me. You see, all of my hope is in God. If anybody hears of a concert close by, let the pastor know he wants to go. All right? 1 Peter chapter 7. excuse me, 1 Peter chapter 5. How many of you caught that? None of you caught that, did you? Well, go ahead and turn to 1 Peter chapter 7 then. All right, maybe some of you did catch that. There is no chapter 7, all right? I've actually been places where they just nod and go ahead, all right? Chapter 5, verse 7 says, casting all your care upon him, for he careth for you. Philippians 4:19, he supplies all of our needs, all of the different things, and we take them, we go along all the way down through it. I told Paula, we pulled up over at Aunt Chancy's house one day, and we were looking out there at the pond, and I told her, I said, we went from that corner over there from the pond over on the backside, and we hung a net. Me and Joey and Papa. We hung a net from over there to over here, and I showed her, and I told her, I said, Joey got in the boat, and he stood in the boat, and he made a lot of racket and carried on and run the fish. I've done that 2 or 3 times. One morning we went over there and we run the net, and we pulled in a catfish. It's huge catfish. Ended up being a 40-pound catfish that me, Joey, and Papa pulled in. And we pulled that thing in, and it had wound itself up in that net so bad that we took the net up. We couldn't get it out of the net there in the water. You know, that's the whole premise. I was telling Paula, is the fact that that fish, the more he tried to get out, the worse that he caught himself up. And I never will forget that. We went and took and we cleaned that fish right there beside the smokehouse. And the fish was so big, Papa took the hatchet and cut steaks up. And I never will, I don't know why I remember all of this, but he said if I could hit in the same place twice, it would help. Trying to cut those steaks up. It's really weird how my mind works. I can see it just as I can smell the fish there on the tailgate. But just like that fish, the more he tried on his own, the more that he flopped and the more he rolled, and it just wound up that net had him worse and worse and worse. You know, you and I on our own, we understand, we know, we've got the Sunday school background, we know all the Sunday school answers, we know what we're supposed to say, we've been taught those scriptures since we were young, the Bible says. And we go in, it says we keep all of these scriptures in our hearts so that we might not sin against you. We know it. But how many times do we wade off and get in the middle of stuff, and before we know it, anxiety sets in, fear sets in, all of this stuff sets in, and we simply forget to be still and realize that God is still in control. He's still there to help us, and all that we have to do is say, I need you. I simply need you. Well, see, I'm like this. If I keep working it, if I keep working on it, I can get it out. And it happens a lot of the time. You know what? That's the bad thing. I can work it, Daryl. I can work it a little bit back and forth, and I can take and get over here a little bit, and I can get out a lot of times, don't we? And it gives us a false sense. It's kind of like people in the hurricane. Oh, it's going to be a bad, bad year for hurricanes this year. Worst year for hurricanes than we've had in a long time. Paul will tell you, we heard that every year that we lived on the coast. Every year. It's going to be a bad one. We're due for one. Hadn't had a bad year in a long time. Going to be a bad year for hurricanes. Then this hurricane would come through and they predicted and no hurricane. And people would go, see there, told you it wasn't going to be nothing. And then next year the same thing and no hurricane. See there, told you it wasn't going to be anything. Then one year a little thing come along called Miss Katrina. And it caught a lot of people off guard, and a lot of people that should have left stayed there because they had become complacent. The fact that they didn't need anything, they just take and get through it on their own. And it cost a lot of different people. Bless your heart, what you were spoon-fed up here from the media was not what we went through and what people went through. You see, there's help there. There's joy there. You know that you and I are not simply meant to take and to look all down in the mouth and to trudge through life, wondering, woe is me, wonder what's going to happen to me. Do you know that God says that He wants us to have a life and life more abundantly? Do you know that it's all right to smile? It's all right to have joy. We listened to Danny Williams all the way down here this morning. That's how we prepared to come into church. And he said that it was okay to say, what was it?
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah, or praise the Lord. Somebody said, did he say that? Whoops, I don't say that. Let me ask you something real quick, and this has nothing to do with the service. Brother Larry, if you come, how did you prepare to come to church this morning? Now, Paula and I, we listened to, we each had our little prayer time this morning. We listened to Danny Williams, all 10 songs on the way down here. We had a little unexpected deal that we had to run and take care of this morning. Had us in a mad panic. You're trying to get out here. But that's how we prepared. How did you prepare to come to church this morning? When you wake up and you prepare your heart, when you walk in those doors, let me tell you how important it is when you walk in those doors and the very first words that are said to you prepares your heart for the service. They either destroy you and the spirit, or they build you up. See, when we walked in here this morning, the very first words was Miss Clarendale. Hey, how are y'all? It makes a difference. If you didn't prepare your heart for service this morning, I encourage you to do so next Sunday morning. Walk into God's house, prayed up, smiled up, filled up. Now, Paula and I had the young kids for a long time. And you know how that you walk across the parking lot? You better get in here, and y'all better sit down, and on it. Yeah, we did that, okay? It's a cycle, you know, it's a cycle. We go through it as kids, and then we do it to our kids. Encourage and build up. Amen. Little Larry, if you would please stand.